North Africa and Middle East, the physical geography. All right, let's get started. Okay, so this is the region that we're studying now, North Africa and the Middle East. This is a globe view, or a view if you're taking a look at from space, you want to say. The area in green, this is the, North Africa, and this is the Middle East. This is where we'll be focusing now. And the region why, and the reason why we cover this region as one, this part of the world as one, instead of just all of Africa as a whole, is because culturally North Africa and the Middle East are very similar. They're very much part of the Islamic world. Most of them are part of the Arab League. So this culturally, even though not necessarily geographically, these two areas are linked. So it makes more sense for us to cover them together. Now we'll zoom in, and this is just another view of the Middle East and North Africa. These are the majority of the countries that we'll be covering, the ones that are in dark gray. Also, though, what I want you guys to take a look at is to realize how close, and we mentioned this before, how close North Africa is to Europe. Only the Mediterranean Sea separates the Middle East and North Africa from Europe. The Black Sea and actually the Mediterranean Sea separates North Africa from Europe. And these are the countries. So these are the majority of the countries that you will be responsible for. I think the United Arab Emirates is missing, and Afghanistan is missing. But these are the majority of the countries that you guys will be responsible for as far as on your map test. And let's make it a little easier for you. Okay, the countries that are hit by red. So we're looking at Mauritania, Algeria, Tanzania, Libya, Egypt, the Sudan, Ethiopia, Yemen, Saudi Arabia, Oman, and this is where the United Arab Emirates would be, Iran, Iraq, Jordan, Israel, Syria, and right around here is where you'll see Afghanistan. And yeah, right around there, and I think Tajikistan will be here, and of course Turkey. And just kind of going over a couple of things too, if you guys are filling out your maps now. This would be if you haven't had an opportunity to fill it out in class. This is where the Nile River would be. This is another physical feature you'll be responsible for. And this is where you're looking at the Euphrates and the Tigris rivers here. And of course, we've discussed really briefly the Mediterranean Sea, the Black Sea, and the Sahara Desert, Red Sea, Arabian Sea, and Persian Gulf. So we'll go over all those things. But really, really quickly, that was the majority of the physical features that you guys will be responsible for knowing on your map tests. So the first thing we'll discuss will be, or the first concept we'll cover will be the peninsulas of the region of the Middle East. And so what this graphic illustrates, it'll be a way for us to kind of take a really close-up look at it. So let's get working on it. The first peninsula is the Anatolia Peninsula, and that is Turkey. So you'll see, remember, if you recall, peninsula is a body that is surrounded on three sides by waters. The second is the Arabian Peninsula, and the Arabian Peninsula makes up Saudi Arabia, Yemen, and the United Arab Emirates, and they're surrounded on three sides by water. And the third major peninsula that we will discuss will be the Sinai Peninsula, and this is made up of Egypt and a little bit of Israel, and they are surrounded on three sides by water. The Sinai Peninsula is surrounded by three sides by water. And just to review the concept of a peninsula again, it's just a body of land. It normally juts into a lake or ocean, and is surrounded on three sides by water. So we've already taken a look to make sure that each one of those peninsulas fulfill that requirement. And the first question, I guess, this is a review for you guys on what we studied with Europe a couple of weeks ago. The bodies of water that frame the Anatolia Peninsula. Remember, this is the Anatolia Peninsula. You should realize this should be a review. Recognize these bodies of water. The Black Sea here and the Mediterranean Sea. So these concepts pop up again and again, especially with Europe, Africa, Asia, being as they're all right on one another. So a lot of these concepts will overlap. Now, the second peninsula we'll discuss which is covered by this illustration, is the Arabian Peninsula. So let's get into it. And what bodies of water frame the Arabian Peninsula? And of course, this arrow is pointing to the Arabian Peninsula. And just really quickly, just to review the countries that are in the Arabian Peninsula: Saudi Arabia, Yemen, Oman, and the United Arab Emirates. So the bodies of water are the Red Sea to the west, the Arabian Sea to the south and southeast, and the Persian Gulf to the east. So you guys see that? Persian Gulf, Arabian Sea, Red Sea. And the Persian Gulf, Arabian Sea, and Red Sea. What we want to do to go over this next concept, or to review the next body of water that we want to discuss, want to go back, take a view of North Africa and Egypt from a global perspective. And that question would be, what body of water separates Africa and Europe? And once again, this is just a review, but I wanted you guys to see Africa. I wanted you to see Europe, and just to visualize, it's just this relatively small body of water in comparison to the size in Africa and Europe that separates Africa and Europe. And the body of water is, once again, the Mediterranean Sea. And if you see here, you'll see Italy, Sicily, Greece, Cyprus, all those places are relatively close. And when we discuss some of the cultural herfs and history, all that, it'll make a little bit more sense. Now, the next body of water we'll take a look at is the body of water that separates Southwest Asia. And this is actually considered part of Southwest Asia, not Africa, even though they kind of connect. Southwest Asia from Africa. So this is considered to be Southwest Asia, and this is Africa. What is the body of water that separates the two? Illustrated by this circle, and it's here, the Red Sea. So the Red Sea separates Africa from Southwest Asia, even though they kind of touch in here, but for the majority of it, the reason why these two continents do not touch here and here is because of the Red Sea. And before we start moving forward to the next illustration, let's talk about the concept of landlocked. And what actually does it mean to be landlocked? When I say a country is landlocked, that means that it is entirely or almost surrounded by land. There are three major landlocked bodies of water that we're discussing. And normally when we talk about landlocked bodies of waters, we mean things like seas or lakes, or large lakes and seas. So there are three main ones that I would like to focus our attention on. The first one is the Dead Sea. The Dead Sea is right near the Sinai Peninsula. It's on the border of Israel and Jordan, and it's right here. The second one is the Caspian Sea, and the Caspian Sea is kind of in northern Iran. And the third one is the Aral Sea. It's a little further in Asia. So we have Dead Sea, Caspian Sea, Aral Sea, and we'll get a little bit into those as we're going forward. But the Aral Sea is the one that's close in Asia, further into Asia, in Russia, actually, pretty much in Russia. Now, these three landlocked bodies of water that we're discussing, the first concept, or we'll cover, the first one we'll discuss, is the Dead Sea. And like I mentioned earlier, this graphic is an illustration, a close-up illustration of exactly where the Dead Sea lies. It's right, it separates Israel and Jordan. And in between Israel and Jordan, and on the West Bank, which is part of Palestinian territory, is the Dead Sea. And a couple things that you want to remember about the Dead Sea: it has a huge salt content. It's, I think, it's the third as far as bodies of water on the planet as far as salt content. So it's actually more salt in the Dead Sea than it is in the Mediterranean Sea. A couple of things. That's why it received this name. One, because it's the Dead Sea. Because it's so much salt, it's hard for water life to live there. Hard for fish and other life to inhabit the sea. And also, pretty much, it makes it easy. It's hard to float, hard to swim in the Dead Sea. Because of the high salt content, you don't swim pretty much. You just pretty much float in it. And once again, the high salinity of the Dead Sea hampers sea life. And it has one of the highest contents of saline as far as the inland bodies of water in the world. The Caspian Sea is the next sea that we'll discuss. and it is actually the largest inland body of water on the planet. So the Caspian Sea, if you remember that, it's in north of Iran, and bam, this is the Caspian Sea. This is an aerial shot of the Caspian Sea. Iran is to the south of it, and it is the largest inland body of water on Earth. Now, the Aral Sea, and remember when I mentioned earlier that the Aral Sea is actually pretty much in Russia. It's deeper in Asia, in Russia. The former Soviet Union, which was what we discussed last week or 2 weeks ago when we went into the Soviet Union, was the former Soviet Union when different Russian states were organized. The former Soviet Union diverted the water from the Aral Sea for irrigation projects, which caused it to shrink. And we discussed some of this last week. All of these concepts tie into one another. Because of the former Soviet Union, because it's so cold, because of the climate, even though the Soviet Union is bordered, has the largest border of water, because it's located in Arctic climate zones, the water's frozen. So throughout Russia's history, it's had to fight and divert other bodies of water, fight for and to divert other bodies of water. The Aral Sea is one of the bodies of water that Russia's had to divert because all of the water to its north and east, the majority of those are frozen. And just moving forward on that concept, these two pictures, this picture to the left is an original, is what it looked like in September of 1989. This is the Aral Sea, and a view of space from the Aral Sea of September in 1989, and this was a view of the Aral Sea from space in August of 2003. So just because of the irrigation projects by Russia to divert water from the Aral Sea to Russia, we've seen this is another way that human beings we have had a physical effect on the we've had an effect on the environment. So moving now, we'll discuss some of the major rivers in this region of North Africa and the Middle East. So the major rivers in the region, the Nile River. The Nile River is actually the world's longest river. It goes from the Mediterranean Sea down past Ethiopia almost into Central Africa. And the Nile River actually flows upwards. And let me go back real quick. Bam. So this is a picture of the Nile River, just almost like a view from space, and we'll discuss this a little bit more as we move forward, is why it appears green and everything else is pretty not green. That actually are the desert. That's the desert on either side of the Nile River. Also, though, but this is a political map, and it shows you the the actual country. So we're looking at Egypt, the Sudan, and looks like a little, not Algeria, and it passes almost a tributary goes off into Ethiopia. So those are what some of the countries we'll be discussing. Boom. Another major river in the region is the Tigris River. And what this graphic illustrates is that the Tigris and the Euphrates River, they empty out into the Persian Gulf. This river valley is significantly historically just like the Nile River. It's the homes to the cultural hearths, to two of the major cultural hearths that we spent some time discussing, and we'll get into a little bit more. But the Tigris and the Euphrates River, this river valley was referred to as as Mesopotamia. And what that literally means is the land between two rivers. And this is a physical map of Mesopotamia, or the land between two rivers. This is it today, a political map. So we see that the Euphrates and Tigris River are in present-day Turkey, Syria, Iraq, and Iran. Now, in this kind of concept I touched on a little bit earlier, these major rivers have been what we call the cradle of civilization, okay? Two of our major cultural hearths that we'll spend a little bit of time discussing later, the Nile River cultural hearth and the Mesopotamian cultural hearth, they formed around these two rivers. And this is what we've discussed time and time again. This is just a recurring theme. Early civilizations You see people forming with access to water for transportation, also near water, access to water, also because it has good soil. So early civilizations, early cultural hearths formed primarily around places where you had good access to water and also good access to a fertile soil. Same thing here. So this is what we call the Nile River Delta. And once again, this is looking at the Nile River. 90% of Egypt's population lives in what we call the Nile River Delta. Now, this only makes up about 3% of the country's land. The reason for that is that the rest of the country is desert. So we're looking at the most fertile part of the country. Back now to the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. This is the region that's known as Mesopotamia. The river has supported farming for over 7,000 years. And today, once again, they irrigate farms in Syria, Turkey, and Iraq. And what you'll see in these regions often, in both the Nile region and the Euphrates or the Mesopotamian region, the Nile River Valley, as well as the Tigris and Euphrates River Valley, is that rainstorms create what we call wadis, and they're steam beds that remain dry into a heavy rain. So this is what a wadi looks like when it's warm. This is what a wadi looks like after a heavy rain. And you'll see this a lot in these valleys, in these regions. And so, of course, civilizations, those things formed around these regions. Please remember, highlight learning targets in your notes and also answer the questions in bold lettering. Have a good day. See you in class.